Last summer, I met my daughter for dinner down on the Strip. We were celebrating what was to be her first legal drink together as a card-carrying 21-year-old. She sat across the table from me, this gorgeous, curly-headed, smiley ball of energy. Her eyes were so bright, I felt like I could see her entire future in their reflection. I remember being completely taken aback by her physical presence, but more importantly, I was keenly aware of her being. She spoke with such a confidence about her, and she had this happiness that just seemed to radiate from her core. It was an incredible sight to behold. At some point during the evening, she got up, excused herself, and made her way to the ladies' room. And as I watched her weave her way through the crowded restaurant, the most unexpected thing happened to me. I started to cry. I wish I could say it was like in the movies where the lighting was perfect and a single tear came, trailing down my cheek, but it was anything but. I was a blubbering hot mess, sobbing into my napkin alone in the middle of this crowded restaurant. I had felt such an unexpected sense of relief. Here she was sitting across from me, this beautiful young woman, beautiful from the inside out. And she was not just okay, she was happy. Those of you who are parents may know what it's like to stand back and look at your children the way the rest of the world sees them, sort of like an artist would stand back and admire their work. And if you're lucky, you're happy with what you see. But in my case, it was a little bit different. You see, in my case, I was sitting across the table from this gorgeous young woman. However, I was admiring someone else's work. I was not the artist. You see, 21 years ago, I had walked into a room holding what was then my 10-day-old daughter in my arms. And 21 years ago, I had placed her into the arms of her carefully chosen new parents. And 21 years ago, I had walked out of that room without her. Alicia, why would you do such a thing? It's okay. You can be wondering that. I have had a lot of people ask me that, and it's okay. I was very clear on my why. I did such a thing because I loved her. Have you ever done something before and you did it, but you didn't know why? You just knew you were going to? Maybe it was you were going to raise your hand in class and ask a really important question. Maybe you were going to leave a relationship that no longer served you. Maybe you were going to pick up your things and move across country. You don't know why, you just felt compelled to do it. And you followed that. That's how I felt about my daughter. That's why I did that. I didn't necessarily have the ability to articulate it, but I knew what I was going to do. I loved my daughter. That was my why. Could we talk about that little 3-letter word for a minute? Why? Any of us who have spent any kind of time around a toddler will know they're inexhaustible. An inexhaustible quest to have that question answered, right? Why? Eat your vegetables. Why? By the 3rd round, we're like, we don't care anymore. We're over it. Why? What's the blanket response? Because I said so. Exactly. Right? And at some point, though, we stop asking. We grow up and we stop asking. Simon Sinek, of course, in his brilliant TED Talk, talks about the golden circle of why. Has anybody seen it? Fantastic. For those of you who have not, he talks about the golden circle of why, that if you start with this innermost circle of why, that the how and the what will naturally fall into place. But you need to be clear on your motivation. You need to be clear on what it is that drives you. As if this wasn't exciting enough for me, then he further takes this and he lays it over a diagram, like a cross-section of the human brain. And he goes on to explain that the why lies neatly over what is our limbic brain, our oldest brain, the part for which we lack language. Now, I deal a lot with love. I could talk about love all day, and I have. But what I believe is that I believe that that place, that inner circle of why, is where love lives. I believe that it's what motivates us. I believe it's the reason behind everything that we do. I also believe this is why we don't always have the ability to articulate what love is, but we know damn well when we feel it. I did what most self-respecting people do when they don't know what a word is or what a word means, and I looked it up in the dictionary, hoping I could find clarification. Well, interestingly enough, when you look up love in the dictionary, there are over 28 definitions for it in the English language alone. No wonder we're confused. Anything from passion to a great sense of affection for a family member or friend. Or my personal favorite, when it comes to tennis, it means a score of 0. You're playing for nothing. But for those of us who may feel as though we have a score of 0 when it comes to love, I'm here to tell you that there's hope. There is definitely hope. Thank you, from the peep show in the back. In my work, I have interviewed hundreds of couples. I'm creating what I call a worldwide love story, and I can talk about love all day. I talk to people about how they met and what is it about the other person that made them fall in love. And I ask them, what is it about their relationship? How do they sustain it? How do they keep it together? And interestingly enough, every time we can have these gorgeous conversations, we'll be flowing along for hours. And the moment that I ask them, so how do you define love? Stuff gets awkward. They start looking at each other and they're like, honey, why don't you take this one? Because they're trying to buy time. It's a very difficult thing to wrap your head around. But again, if we go back to that golden circle and we picture that golden circle of why and you put a heart in it, I feel as though the top and the bottom of that just sort of spill out, that sometimes we can articulate what it is, but it's okay that we can't. It's okay. There's an ancient Sanskrit word called Namaste, right? The good in me sees the good in you. And I feel as though if I were to greet you on the street, I would like to tell you Namaste, because I feel as though the love in me honors the love in you. And it's not up to me to define what love is for you. I just trust you. I trust that you're going to know what it feels like. You're going to know what it means for you. Some of these couples that I've interviewed, it's been hilarious. There's been one couple that I interviewed that they literally fell in love. She tripped and fell, and he caught her, and she just knew. She just knew. It's a true story, right? Then there's another couple that I swear he's the only man that I know that was ever able to move out of the friend zone. But he was. He was patient. He knew that she was the one, and he was patient, and he waited for her. And then there was and actually 3 months ago, she said yes. So swear to God, he's the only one I know. If you have more stories, send them my way. And then there was another couple that, they shared separate households. 22 years they've been together, 2 separate addresses, 2 separate Christmas cards. If you want to get them to go to anything, you have to send 2 envelopes. But it works for them. Why? Because they know, and they just went with it. And then, of course, there's a couple where the man, he came out, and his boyfriend, it was a much more supportive environment on one side of the family than it was the other. So they redefined what family meant for them, and they moved it forward because they knew. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because if we operate from this inner circle of why, and love is what motivates us, and it starts from within, it creates this ripple effect within our community. You start with yourself, and that ripple effect, when you get that why straight, will overflow into your community and into your tribe. And to me, that's a beautiful thing. I want to support that. I'm also telling you this because I know what it's like to feel like you're that salmon that's swimming upstream, that person that's swimming against the current. Because when I made that choice 21 years ago on how I decided to love my daughter, I was swimming upstream. I had friends that didn't agree with my vision on how to love my daughter. that wouldn't talk to me anymore. I lost them. But I found new ones. I had family members that stopped talking to me because they couldn't see my vision. They didn't believe in my why. But I found the ones that did, and we bonded and drew it in stronger. I had organizations that didn't want to support me in my vision and what I saw for her and how I wanted that to happen. But I found champions within other organizations that did understand my why, that were clear on it, and they were willing to honor the love in me. So my hope for you is that you become clear on your why. And not only that, that when you see your neighbor, that you trust them and you greet them with an Namaste, and you trust them to be clear on their why. Thank you.